Uh-oh. I don't even know if I'm live or not. All right. I guess I'm live, but yet I can't see myself. Stream, stream, stream. I touched something. All right. Well, anyway, it looks like it's working. And I thought that I muted my sound on my computer, but it does not appear that I have. So now I have to do that. Hold on just a sec. It takes an hour for me to move the mouse because of the screen is barely functioning. Yes, we are very organized today. Not. All right, there. All right, now I'm watching me on my main computer, but I don't have any control on the main computer, so I don't even know what I look like on there. Oh, they put 2 ads on. How irritating. Are you guys, you're not seeing me, are you? Black screen. Okay. Now, what button do I push on, okay, what button do I push on my Android to make that stop? Well, hey, you can hear me. That's better than nothing. Share. All right, you Android people. Do you have any idea how to live stream on this Android phone using the Google app? Rotate device. Okay, let me try pushing that button. Uh, Still nothing? Dang it. You know, it showed my face at first. All messages are visible. Dang it. That's why I started a little bit early, because I have no idea how to use this. And you can't really test it in advance without actually going live, and then I wasn't really ready to go live, so. All right, there's the camera button. What does that do? Oh, can you see me now? You may be able to. Can you? Can you? Yes! You should see how bad it looks on my computer. Okay, okay. I guess it's good for me to learn how to do this anyway, because one of these days I may actually want to take my phone somewhere and actually do a live stream. Okay! It was only like 3 or 4 minutes of suffering this time. Look at that, I'm only 2 minutes late. Okay, so yeah, my computer went crazy. It's something about the screen. It's like you can only see it like 1/3 strength, and it's like pulsing. My friend actually said it looks like electromagnetic interference on the screen, but there's nothing in here doing that. I mean, that would have to be really powerful electromagnetic interference. And I even went around and turned off like the fan and stuff. So I don't know, I think that something about the actual image card or whatever image programming is in there is damaged, so it's not displaying right. So I don't know if I actually tried to use it, if you guys would see the messed up screen or if you would see it properly. But the other problem is, since it only refreshes like once in a while, like the mouse just kind of goes, nope, nope, like that. So it takes me like forever to get to anywhere. And it was just, of course, it didn't do it until like an hour or two right before I got home. Like I got home from work and it was like that. So no time to do anything about it. So I'm probably going to have to bring it in and see if it can be fixed. And I don't know if I'll get it done by next week. I'm going to try to work out something before next week. But Best Buy is like so overloaded right now with repairs. So I have no idea if I'll be able to get it done within a week or not. Then I'm like, okay, I could try buying another computer, but right now with the COVIDs or the big C, um, it's really hard to even just go in and buy a computer because they're out because everybody bought computers for their home workplace. So electronic stores have made the buckolas. All right, so yeah, I don't know, just kind of weird lately. I went into Walmart today and they're like out of everything. I was talking to not everything, but certain aisles are like super, super empty. And so I was talking to the woman. I'm like, well, where's all your containers, like just storage containers because I use them at work all the time. And she's like, they just stopped coming in. She doesn't know why, but all the small containers are not being delivered. And so I don't know if there's supply chain issues with China or what, but it's a little weird. I don't know, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but the supply chains are definitely messed up. Okay, so I've got two things for world news. Um, One is, I don't know if you guys have heard the latest news. It's kind of like, in case anybody actually was trying to trust the news, they came out about talking about how 90% of tests for the C may be testing such tiny amounts of virus and that it may be dead or it's so small that you would not be contagious. So maybe you never even were going to get sick. So it kind of makes sense because you've got all these asymptomatic people. So obviously they weren't very sick. It's just another thing that makes this whole thing so messed up that you could never figure out what's really going on because first you've got the tests that could cross react with other coronas, and then you've got them claiming that a lot of the real cases were missed. I'm skeptical on that, but it could be. Okay, and then you have the big boondoggle with not having enough tests because we had to have our own tests. We couldn't use the Chinese test. Oh no. And then we've got the test, one of the tests was, one of the primers is got the same sequence as chromosome 8 on the human genome. So what are the other primers testing for? Who knows? Hopefully it's the C, but who knows? Then you got the problem that they didn't seem like they've actually really for sure isolated the C from what I've seen. Now you've got this thing where the cycle threshold, that's what they're talking about now. So basically, what the PCR test does is it takes a tiny amount of protein. It's basically looking for a tiny amount of protein that matches those three primers. So those three primers all are supposed to be matched in order to so in order to do that, they take the protein and there's just going to be a tiny bit, and they like replicate it until there's a bunch, and then they can test and see if that proteins that they're looking for are in there. So cycles are like the number of replications. You just keep multiplying, multiplying, multiplying. So normally they don't multiply beyond a certain amount because basically you're getting like an almost non-existent amount of protein and replicating. And there's a point where it's just like if there was really only like that much in there, it is not enough to matter. So they don't usually keep cycling. But apparently there has been no standards about how many times they're going to keep multiplying the amount of proteins before they do the final test. And so they call that the cycles. So some labs are doing it like 30 times multiplying. And, there's a lot of difference between multiplying it 30 times and multiplying it 45 times. My understanding is it'll double each time, so that's a lot. Some are going up to 45 times, which is beyond the recommended amount of even doing that. I guess none of the labs are reporting how much they're doing. It's just another example of just complete ridiculous stupidness. Because, I mean, really, if this was really a serious illness, I mean, we'd all be dead because everybody is being a complete moron. You've got 10 or 20 different ways of counting positive tests, each city is doing it differently, and then they keep changing. So once you think you know, then they keep switching it off. I mean, it's like it's all designed to be as confusing and vague and impossible to figure out as humanly possible. I mean, God would have trouble deciphering this mess, okay? And he may be the only one who could figure it out, because he would just skip all of the data we have and go straight to the actual truth, and that is the one thing that we can't do. So this is another example of ridiculousness. I don't know how many more stacks of ridiculous they can pack on here. I think I've left out like 3 or 4 of them. So I went to my favorite buffet opened today. I don't know how they are passing the rules. I think they're trying. I don't know if they are or not. I actually am having a hard time figuring out what the buffet rules are around here. But they waited all the way till now. And it's just hilarious because you go in and you have to wear gloves while you're in there. I'm like, but you take your germy hands on, you put them all over the gloves in order to put them on, and then you're walking out there with gloves on, and then you're taking your germy hands and taking off the gloves and setting them on the side of the table, which assumedly might be all germy, and then so the gloves are instantly germy. I mean, when you're in the hospital, some nurse puts your gloves on and they wash their hands 57 times before they do it, and so it's like, it's funny, everybody's wearing gloves. I'm like, the gloves are not going to be any cleaner than your skin if you're just touching everything all randomly like that. You might as well just wash your hands. Then I don't know, but everybody's going around wearing gloves like somehow that's going to be like way more sanitary. So it's so funny. So yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous. Okay, so yes, more ridiculous with the tests. Just waiting. I have a feeling there's going to be 5 or 6 more dumb things to come down the chute, but there's that one for now. All right. This one is really concerning. I almost thought it was Canada when I first heard this. I was like saying that Australia has really lost a lot of their rights, and not to say that we haven't, but there's a channel on YouTube called Please Stop the Ride, and I saw this on there. So apparently in the United States, the good old Department of Homeland Security has declared that the Border Patrol, has the right to search any electronic device going over the border. So like cell phones, laptops, any device that you have, they can search it. And they can keep the data for 75 years. Okay, well, that doesn't sound that bad, but then they have also declared that they can do this, and they don't need a warrant or anything. They can do this any distance within 100 miles of the border. So, like, they could come over 99 miles in as the crow flies. I think they call it, like, airplane distance or something like that, air distance. They can come in 99 miles from the border, and they can search anything within that. So, like in your house, they can search your laptop and your devices in your house if you're within 99 miles of the border. Okay, so there's a lot of borders, and there's a lot of people that live along the border. And according to Please Stop the Ride, about 2 out of 3 United States citizens actually live within 100 miles of a border. It's not just the Mexican border, it's any border. So I don't know if that's exactly right, but I know that's a lot of people, and I may be within that range myself, because I'm pretty close to the Mexican border, and it seems like it's far, but most of the problem is that there's a lot of traffic, so it's really not that far if I was just to jump in the car without any traffic and drive straight there. And then they're talking about air distance, so that's going to be further in than what the mileage on your car says. So basically, suddenly, within 100 miles of the border, they don't need a warrant to search your stuff. And it wasn't really clear if they could burst into your house or not, because it just says any electronic device. So if the electronic device is in your house, it sounds like they could do that. Um, Supposedly, there's already been a lawsuit about some of this, and the lawsuit failed. So I don't know where I was. I heard something about them searching your devices at the border, but I didn't hear anything about this 100 freaking miles. This is the first I've ever heard about that. The border search thing was just a month or two ago. I don't know how a lawsuit already went through and failed. But anyway, it's concerning. Just checking to see what you guys are up to. I went to have my old Max fixed, but nobody's touching it because of the C. You know, Best Buy, as far as I know, is still doing fixes. You might want to check there. You'll have to make an appointment and stuff, but I'm trying to read it now. My husband works at a grocery store, and stuff isn't coming in either. Placing orders, but nothing's coming in. Diana Majka. Yeah, see, it's not everything. I noticed that canned goods are kind of scarce. I mean, you have everything you really want. It's just, you don't have 3 different varieties like you used to. You might be out of like the organic ones out, or could I change it 90 degrees? Actually, that was what I was trying to do before. Let me see if it'll work. I've actually got it taped on this box, so it's not that easy to change. Now I won't be able to have it taped like that. I actually was trying to switch it, and then I accidentally pushed buttons, and so that's why I quit. Alright. It's not going to hang straight now because I've got a pop socket on the back. See, there's reasons, there's methods to the madness. Alright, there you go. I don't know if that really helps any. And, alright, where was I? Oh, okay, I was reading you guys. It takes an hour to move the mouse. I have no idea how to actually check anything on the phone as far as, do people just not look at the messages on the phone? When they're live streaming via phone, I guess there's just no way to actually look at that. I'm trying to like scroll up the All right, so nobody's said too much. All right, anyways, so yeah, I don't know how much of that is, there's a lot of rumors going around. It could just be a simple matter of too much stuff being shipped and not enough boat space, not enough airplane space. Airplane space is way down because airlines aren't flying people, and so the cargo hold underneath is no longer available. So that makes a difference. So it could just be that. But then for these big companies, I can't imagine they're flying that much on regular airplanes. It's got to be like boats and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Some of this stuff may have components made in lockdown countries. I don't know. There's a lot of issues. Oh, now it's sideways? Oh, I see. Okay, then fine. I'm putting it back the way it was. People are just going to have to live with it. They're going to be stuck with it then. This high-tech system. I'll have to figure that out. Part of the problem is you can't test the system without actually going live, as far as I can tell. I wasn't able to find a way to put it like on private or something. All right, yeah, you're right, it is. I thought it would automatically know that I changed well, whatever. Okay, there you go. Oh, you know what? Look. Okay. Your messages come up on a little thing there, but then they're this way, so I have to read it like that. Okay. obviously have not got the kinks worked out. All right, so so yeah, very concerning because it looks like kind of this border patrol electronic search thing. I mean, that has nothing to do with the sea, and they've just rammed this through. So you know, illegal search and seizure, as far as I'm concerned. And that's not good. And what's going on in the other countries. So yeah, definitely not good. All right, so that's my completion of complaining on the world news. I have a feeling we'll see more of this through this winter, and we're just gonna. There's gonna have to be a point where we put our feet down. I think. Um, I don't know. Something's got to give. This winter, I think it's gonna come to a head. All right. So, okay. So Mandela's on the Mandelas. Is it still sideways? It should be fixed now. Here, I'm gonna push this button. Maybe that'll fix it. So I flipped it so it should work, but I'm still seeing me on there. The thing is, those images are old, so I don't know how much delay there is before you see. Dang it, I don't see any new stuff. It takes so long to move. If I move the mouse too fast, then the whole cursor disappears. I can't find the cursor now. There it is. All right, so either you guys haven't said anything for an hour. Chat disconnected. Please try again after something. All right, I'm going to try renewing it. Am I still sideways? Gosh. See, I got tape on there, so it's hard for me to push all buttons. There. How can it be still sideways after I already rotated it? Really? I've got some funky. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait. There we go. Back to normal. The cell phone is not working. I know it's not working, but my computer is screwed up. That's why I'm forced to use this stupid cell phone problem. I don't want to. All right. The hell? I never realized how much ads are on my thing all the time. Yes, I would love, I promise you. I'm going to put it back this way now. Yoink. Get more tape. This one piece of tape is getting a little bit tired. And I don't have a cell phone holder because I never live stream with my cell phone. That's why I have to use this. I can see your messages on my regular computer, but like kind of barely. Are you serious? All right. Is it really dark again? All right. Look, half of you are complaining that it's not good, and the other half of you are saying don't touch the phone. You can't have both ways, all right? This is like moderating on Redcon. Half the people want this, the other half want this other thing. All right, so on my computer, it doesn't seem to be updating at all. Are you guys like getting me actually moving around and stuff? Oh, you know what? I think I accidentally. There we go. My computer is behind by like 5 minutes. There we go. All right, no more complaining aloud. It was either this or no stream, so that was your two choices. All right, so it has been a funky week as far as personal Mandelas. Stuff's just been kind of disappearing, and like my friend put down a rat trap, and now the rat trap's gone. It was like now nobleness D, your left is my light. So if you turn, yeah, yeah, don't, if the rest of the people say good, you better not have me do anything else. Okay, so yeah, see, part of the reason you might be getting better video is because the computer was screen capturing and sending that, and it was sending my image of my face. Now you just got the image of the face, so it's easier and it takes less power. So that might be part of it. And it might be that I didn't have OBS set up perfectly, but I really don't know how to set up OBS, so I need some like expert person to set it up, and that's not going to happen. Okay, so that rat trap, it's like a live trap one, and we had it like stuck between the TV because we think there might be a mouse in here. It's actually like a mouse trap. And it's gone. I mean, like, I don't know what happened to it. I mean, only the two of us ever go in here, so I don't know if the mouse stole it. It's a big, I don't know. It's gone. I don't, we don't know what happened to it now. It's impossible. Okay, so there's that. I haven't told Dave this, but he's borrowing this truck because his truck is dead, and he's been borrowing it on and off for a few months, and the color of the truck changed. It was tan. In fact, he was trying to teach me how to drive stick on that truck, and it was tan. And I came home a couple days ago, and I'm like, what is that white truck doing here? And it's the truck. It's an F-150. Everything is the same. Like, the inside looks the same, but it's white now. It's like this shiny white color. So, yeah. Jerry, you mean Dark Wolf? I don't know. He's not here though. He's in Idaho, so. Who will step in the mouse trap? It's an electronic trap door trap, so, it doesn't injure you. It just captures the mouse, and then you got to check it intermittently because he'll be in there, and then you just like throw him out the door or something. So yeah, we don't know what happened to that electronic. It's gone. And okay, so the color of the truck changed, so that kind of tripped me out. There's another thing that happened that's weird, and I don't know if you can really see, but like I always have eyeliner on because I have eyeliner tattoos. So that's why it's like a semi-permanent tattoo that they put on there, so you don't have to keep doing your eyeliner. And so I had it done like a couple times, and this is my third time because we were having trouble getting it dark enough for some reason. It just didn't want to go in, and so I went there the last time. So there was a marked difference between the first two times and this last time. So the first two times were before the sea, and then she was shut down a big long time, and then she finally decided to just open out of her. Well, I won't go all into it because I don't want to get her in trouble, but there was a bunch of things that changed. So this is like the third thing this week. And I'm going to write them. I got them all written down. So the first thing that happened was it didn't hurt. And the other two times it like totally hurt. And she said the other two times, because you got nothing better to do than kind of talk while she's doing it, she said that there are a few percentage of people that it doesn't hurt for. That's what she said the other two times. And this time she said, oh, it almost never hurts. And there's only 2% of times when it does hurt. So she said, well, that's really unusual that it hurt, those other times. And I'm like, but that's totally different than what she said before. Okay, so I thought maybe it was because I was taking more vitamin C and maybe my skin got better or something. I mean, there's a ways to rationalize that, but the fact that she totally changed her story is a little suspicious to me. It also healed like super fast, like 2-3 days faster than normal. So it was like I did it on a Thursday night and it was completely healed by Tuesday night, which is ridiculous, even according to her time schedule now, her suggested time schedule. That's ridiculous. Like all the scabbing was off and it's totally healed now. And it's only been 6 days. So that's crazy. And it didn't hurt other days either. Like it didn't hurt when she was doing it. And last time I had it done, it was like really sore the next day and then the day after, but it hardly was at all this time. So that was weird. Okay, so the other thing that she changed her story on is that she always would say that she uses lidocaine as the painkiller, and she would ask, if I had any sensitivities to lidocaine. And this time she said she always used this custom formulated painkillers that were what is that name of that? I can't remember the word for the the people who the pharmacists who make custom formulas, and she's like, oh, this is the state of the art, blah blah blah. But it wasn't lidocaine anymore, and she was always lidocaine. Okay, so that was kind of weird. Then the real one that really changed for me though is that she gave me there's certain things you're supposed to do before she does the tattoo. Like she doesn't want you consuming aspirin, certain skin things, anything like that would affect the skin tone, like a week before. And I remember she gave me the instructions and I put them on my computer. And instead of her giving them to me again every time, I just say, no, I have them. Yeah, no, I was 100% lidocaine before. I'm not sure what she's using now, but she said it wasn't just one thing. It was like a formula that she has always used, according to her. It wasn't lidocaine. So the instructions used to read absolutely no, and she had this list of things, and so I would consult them to make sure I didn't get anything on that list, like and I remember some of them: aspirin, retin-A. There was some other blood thinners on there, and most of the stuff I don't use at all, so I wasn't. Oh, caffeine is on there because caffeine can blunt, I guess, the deadening effect of the painkiller, and so I was checking to make sure. Okay, I have more. Actually, I have my normal light on. It's just the quality of this phone versus the quality of my the video capture device on the computer. You guys might be happy if I end up having to pay $1 kajillion for another computer, because it'll probably be a better quality one than the one you guys have been stuck with. But I'm still hoping I can get this one fixed enough to like continue reading using it as a backup would be nice. Okay, so anyways, so it used to be absolutely no, and then the big long list 1 week before. And then she had this particular sentence in there that I remember well, and she said, I will know if you don't follow instructions. That was the exact words, I will know. And I used to think about that. I go, will she really know? Or is she just saying that to scare you into doing it? And I always did follow the instructions the other time, so I didn't know if she would know or not, but I remembered that. So this time, since I've been taking the DMSO, I was a little worried because that's a blood thinner. Hey, Dark Wolf, what's up, dude? And I was thinking, okay, well, then my blood's going to be thinned, and that's not really on there on the list, but it is a blood thinner, and she might think that I was taking aspirin or something if my blood's thin, and I kept thinking, and she will know, will she really know? I don't know if she will really know. So I'm like, well, I really am just going to keep taking the DMSO, and she'll just have to deal with it, right? So I go down there and everything's fine, and she doesn't say anything about any thin blood, because if your blood's thin, it could bleed a lot. And I get home and I check the instructions. I don't know why I checked them after I got home, because it's kind of like too late, but I double checked them. And I realized that they never said, I will know. And they also never said, absolutely no, blah, 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 blah. It says, we recommend that you don't. And that was all it said. And it doesn't say, I will know if you don't do it. So it was like a whole different spiel. And there was a lot less stuff on that list, too. Now, these are the exact same instructions she gave me like a year and a half ago. And they were the same the last two times I did the thing. So the instructions have changed. And that there is definitely an ME. So that makes me really suspicious that the lidocaine issue and the another stuff is also an ME. I think it's a different her, again. So that's like 3 this week, and there's been some little ones. And oh, what was the fourth one? Like 2 days ago. This one was kind of freaky. There's a certain, I sell pop sockets, okay? So my assistant put some up on the table for me to make, and I went up there, and there were 5. Each pop socket that I have to make is in its own little bin, and so we don't get all confused with the paperwork, and each thing has its own bin. So there were 5 bins for 5 pop sockets. So I go up there and I count off the 5 bins. I don't know, I'm pretty picky, so I just do a lot of little things like that, cross-checking. So I count 5 bins. All right, I got to make 5 pop sockets so I don't misplace any of them or anything. And then I'm making them, and I made 4 of them. And then I couldn't find the 5th one. I'm like, I haven't even budged from this area. I'm looking around. I can't find the 5th bin. I'm like, I'm sure there were 5. I only see 4. This never happens. I'm pretty locked in on this stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm just mistaken. I'm going to take care of it. I'll look into it in a little bit. So my assistant comes up and she goes, yeah, I gave you 5 bins. And then there's 2 more that just got bought. So she gives me the 2 more. She goes, well, where's the 5 bins? I go, I don't know. I saw 5 and I made them, but then I only had 4. So I can't find the 5th. And she's all right, well, let's figure out which one's missing. So she goes and she finds the one that's missing. And then I go, well, do you remember ever pulling this one? She goes, well, no. I go, well, how can you have 5 bins if this is one of the 5 and you never pulled it? She goes, I have no freaking idea. So it was weird because we both remembered the 5 bins, but one of them disappeared and she never pulled the 5th one, yet how could there be 5? And it was like both of us were both, on the same exact confusion about the same thing. And I don't know, it was weird. So it's just been one of those weeks that have just been weird. All right, so that's my laundry list of weird personal Emmys. Now let's get to the global Mandelas. All right, this is one I noticed myself. And I don't know if you guys are kind of watching, but I've been watching the Bible stuff more, and I've picked the KJV because, I don't know, that one's the one that changes a lot, and it seems to be kind of more the progenitor of the other ones. So, Revelation used to have the S. Revelations 13:7. Revelation 13:7 KJV. It's talking about the mark of the beast. I've been watching this one because I'm a little worried about it. And what I remember when it said in there last I've checked, which is many times over the last year, where it says you won't be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark of the beast or the number of his name. And I swear it was mark of the beast or number of his name for months and months. And I'm not really sure if that's the original one from like 5 years ago, but it's been the one for a while. So I go to check it, and now it says the mark of the beast, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. That name of the beast thing is new. It was just mark of the beast or number of his name. I've been actually trotting around quoting the damn thing, and it was name of the beast was not in there. So there's a third option now, and this is translated in different ways because some of the Bibles are saying mark of the beast. You need the mark of the beast and the name of the beast and the number of his name, and there's different ones like that. But anyway, so I'm calling Mandela on the name of the beast. So I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting to see if we get how this whole thing comes out, that there'll be a core physical corollary to these words or not. That's why I've been watching this really carefully. What new other big Emmys and landscape statues, buildings, blah blah blah. I haven't really looked at those like this week. I have some other ones that I'm gonna do, but I'll probably do them next week because I can't show you guys anything. So like manned animals and stuff. I mean, it doesn't really. I don't know. It's not as exciting. All right. So I saw that one. This next one is by Mark Tyus, and commenter on the channel, and he noticed that he mentioned that I kind of saw this too. There's an article going around that the Earth is making the moon rust. So the moon is getting rusty now. So how does the moon get rusty when it's not supposed to have any oxygen? Didn't know there was any ands or ors with Mark of the Beast. Yeah. Well, look at KJV because they do it as or, but other Bibles are using and. So I'm hoping for or because it says you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. If there's ors, then there's ways around it because the Bible says do not get the mark of the beast or worship the beast. Okay. So if there's a way to avoid the mark of the beast but still, be able to buy and sell, that would be good. Just don't get the mark and don't worship. So, maybe there'll be like a card or paperwork or something that you could carry instead. Exemptions. I don't know. That's why I keep looking at it and going, exemptions. We got to have some exemptions here so we can all, go into the store and buy our food, please. I've said it before, look for the routes around problems. And number of the beast is 666, but no mention the name or connection to the 666. Yeah, and that's another Mandela because now they're saying the proper translation is really 616. I believe it was. It wasn't 666 anymore. It's mistranslated all this time. Yeah, right. Whatever. I don't know. So keep an eye on either of those. Either of those numbers now are now questionable. Okay, so the moon is rusting at the poles, and this is interesting because if you remember, not too long ago they said, it just turns out that the Earth's atmosphere in dilute form actually extends way out past the moon. So that was like kind of trippy, it's just a little bit of our atmosphere, So now they're saying that the reason that the moon can rust is because it swings through our atmosphere and our tailings once in a while, and that gets oxygen, spreads oxygen over it, and then that oxygen causes stuff to rust on the moon. And it's got like reddish rust on the moon on the poles now, which sounds totally ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of a stretch. But I just thought it was interesting because it does say in the Bible that, the moon will turn red. And there's a lot of places like around the end times where it says the moon will turn red. But, even more specifically, we actually do see, if you look out the window, that often the moon is quite red now. It needs water to rust. It is said there are tiny amounts of water. Oh, you're kind of behind the times on the tiny amounts because That was the tiny amounts was like last year's news. Now there's like ice all inside both poles and some on the surface. No more tiny amounts. So, but that was kind of my thing. I mean, there's there's H2O, right? There's oxygen, there's H2O. So what's in H2O? There's O in H2O. So I'm like, oh, there's going to be some story that the O part of the H2O got split out because of take your pick, ionization, radiation, blah blah blah. Anyway, they who knows, that story may keep changing. That's, I recall, lack of metals on the moon. Yeah, they're saying there's magnetite up there and all kinds of stuff now. Yeah, so yeah, very tiny amounts of water is like last year's news, and then 10 years ago's news is there's no freaking way there's any water because it's impossible. So I know it's hard to keep up. I know, I know. Okay. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting because it goes with the Bible, but it also, we're seeing it reddish. Of course, they're blaming it on our oxygen. I mean, our they're blaming it on the atmosphere of the Earth, making it look red, but it sure as heck did not used to look red. Oh, that's another thing. Okay, I don't know. Yes, there's been fires in California, but I've lived through two firestorms where we had ash raining down on the house, and the sky was very dark from ash and clouds, and yet this never happened in those times. But now I look up and the sky looked nice and blue, but the sun this week is making this weird yellow light. It's just creepy. I mean, the whole Earth looks weird when the light color is weird, and when the whole light looks weirdly yellow and weirdly red, it's just kind of hard to feel like anything is normal. And they're kind of saying, oh, well, that's just the remnants of the fires in the atmosphere. And I'm like, I don't see any up there. I just see blue sky, and even when I had black sky from real firestorms, this didn't happen. But so yeah, the color of the light from the sky has been really creepy. So that was like a fifth thing that was weird this week. Um, I don't know about you guys, but okay. So another one was from Joe Nor Games. I said before I remembered him as Joe Nar Games, but he says he didn't change it. So we've got the Joe Nor Games version of Joe Nor. I don't know if you remember in World War II, you guys who know your history, the conference at Malta was always the big conference for me, where we had world leaders, like quite a number of world leaders met. And that was like the big conference. So apparently now it wasn't that big a deal. There was a bunch of them, and only two people met there. It was Roosevelt and one other now met at Malta. And I remember a whole bunch of the different leaders meeting at Malta, but now it was only two. And now there's this other meeting that apparently most of the people met at called Yalta. I'm like, is it is it a coincidence that it just happens to sound like Malta, but it was another conference at Yalta? I mean, did the Mandela just make it sound the same so you'd think you forgot? But it was a whole nother meeting at Yalta now. I'm like, I feel like I'm getting trolled. The next one will be at Schmalta or something. I don't know, but so I call Mandela on the Yalta. You remember the Yalta conference for World War II? And there was a couple other ones too, but like, no, Yalta. I don't remember any of that. Dark Wolf's show is getting better and better. Yep, they're all super organized now. They're all high tech at Dark Wolf's channel. Not all Mandela oriented though, but just paranormal, different paranormal ones. So you can pick and choose now, pick your topics over there. I noticed your channel users have gone way up too, Dark Wolf, so that's cool. So um, it's hard to get a lot of users right now because YouTube never wants to advertise your channel. You might do better if you took off the whole Mandela effect thing, but no, I really can't get this stupid extra computer to display anything. So I'm not really reading very many of your. Oh, there we got it. You see, this looks like something that you talked about like an hour ago. People are acting more crazy. Yeah, today's been kind of crazy. Drivers look like they want to hit you or something. I look different. I don't know. I think it might be just a better screen. Yeah, I see that it looks like something you guys said like an hour ago. Uh, this is really, really irritating. I wanted to see if you guys had anything to contribute. Oh yeah, Life Matrix was talking about the stone forests. I actually had that on a long time ago, the stone forests. They started out in China, there was one, and now they're like all over, and they've got different names for it. Sometimes they call those stone structures. Basically, they're just really weird stone structure spires, a whole bunch of them, and so they call them stone forests. And they've got weird names for it, like hoodoos now. They call them hoodoos. That one showed up what, like 6 months, a year ago. The hoodoos, just another word for the stone spires. Unless that was for the when the snow does it. I'm trying to remember. It might have been for either. The snow will do the same thing now with these weird spires as the stone, and neither were in my original timeline, so. Yalta, Malta, Karma hit. Yeah, see, and Yalta is supposed to be a whole different location than Malta. Malta is still there. And Jonah was saying that, oh, somebody gave me $20, but I don't know who. It didn't show. Well, thank you very much for whoever gave me $20. I do appreciate that. I didn't see it over here, but I'm watching it as a regular user. I probably should have seen it. Oh yeah, so half of the history channels were saying like all these major decisions were done at Malta, which is what I remember, and then a bunch of other ones are saying, oh, it was done at Yalta. So, do you remember Pam Anderson overdosing years ago, or is it just me? I'm not sure on that one. I'm pretty good at famous people like 20 years ago, but the last 20 years, I don't follow very many of them. So I'm not real good on those. Like who died lately, I'm not good in those. I mean, like if Ronald Reagan came back to life, I would notice. But if it's kind of like a lesser, if it was a lesser person, yeah. Just trying to read your stuff. Oh my gosh, this is so irritating. I'm really hoping I can get this fixed because the rest of the computer is perfectly fine. But it's a laptop, so I don't know how much they can swap out and fix stuff. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they're just going to want to say, oops, can't fix if it's any complicated at all over there. Because I have the year-long free repair thing, and it occurs to me that I don't know if they're going to strain themselves to fix things. Stalin, Churchill, Eisenhower, my past now was Stalin, Churchill, Roosevelt. You know what? I was checking the Malta one. I thought it was just, was it just two? Maybe there was three. I just remember seeing this image of all these different leaders, like all the leaders were there, not just couple. There was like 6 or 7. Malta was like the big conference. Now there's been this series of smaller ones. Preliminal, check your email. So I'll still be able to check like comments and stuff. I'll just do it from my work computer. I just luckily, I actually did all my comment checking up even this morning and yesterday and the day before. So I was 99% caught up because now I can barely see them on here. Moon could be hollow. Who the heck knows? The thing is, okay, whether it's how can the moon change its orbit and show up only at night in my timeline, and a lot of people remember it always coming out during the day and blah blah blah. That, whether it's hollow or not doesn't explain all of that weird memory business, that it's different in every timeline. So I mean, there is no conventional explanation for it. I mean, as whacked out as it sounds to say it's hollow, it is not even half as weird as the Mandela effect version of what's going on. I very clearly recall a lack of metals on the moon. Of course, that was years ago. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I mean, I definitely remember saying that there was no atmosphere on the moon. And then they said, oh, there's this thin atmosphere. And then they said, oh, the Earth's atmosphere spreads all the way across the moon. The other one they were saying I saw this week was that Pluto has an atmosphere. That's the latest story. Yalta's blah, 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 on the. Sorry, it's very hard for me to follow the comments at this setup. I really hope I could get something. I might be able to get another computer in here, at least look at the comments. I thought I would be able to handle the comments with this crappy screen, but it's really not working. The sky has been intense, never seen it rain ash before, even though we live in the mountains. Yeah, well, I live in LA, or no, I live in San Diego. Oh my God, I don't even know where I live. I used to live in LA, and we've had two big firestorms through here. Like, I don't know, it was like 10 years ago and 13 years ago or something. There was only a few years apart between a couple of them. And it was always like, oh, this place, Southern California was the big fire region because we don't get that much rain. But weirdly, it's the last 3-4 years have been all way up north California, and those areas never used to get bad firestorms because it was raining and everything was nice and moist. But there's like these two storylines that go around that have been confusing me for years, even before the Mandela. And if it rains a lot, then they say we're going to have a bad fire season because of all of the growth. Oh, there's so much growth. There's so much to burn. But then if it doesn't rain a lot, they say, oh, we're going to have a really bad fire season because it's so dry. Everything is so dry. I'm like, wait a minute. How can it be both? How can you, like, rain is good and drought, rain is bad, but drought is bad. One of them has to be good, right? So, I don't know. Just another thing where the news is weird. They say it is growing hematite. Yeah, exactly. They said the hematite, and hematite, I don't know if you've dug that stuff, but a lot of times it's really rusty. Maybe we mentioned too much that it was too white. Matrix overcorrected it. Oh, that the sun was too white. Yeah, it's actually has looked really yellow when it's through the clouds, because apparently the clouds are yellow. But when I look at them, they look normal, and there's only a few of them. And I don't see anything making the sun look yellow in the atmosphere. I see the blue sky, so it never used to do that. It's weird. Someone doesn't know the moon is hollow. Well, there is that thing, some years back they supposedly dropped a bomb on the moon, or they blasted something into the moon and it was supposed to ring like a bell. I don't know. There could be a whole bunch of underground stuff there. Less pollution now. Now, that's Mandela splaining again. No Mandela splaining. Okay. I have definitely traveled enough to go out in the middle of the deserts, in the middle of the mountains, right after a giant storm, when there was the absolute least amount of smog you could ever imagine, and the sun still looked the same as far as color as it did in the middle of freaking Los Angeles. So the sun was yellow in the middle of Los Angeles. The sun was yellow out in the middle of the desert after a giant storm in the most crystal skies you've ever seen in your life. The sky was yellow. The sun was yellow. And then it was white, no matter which one of those you go to. So I've lived in super polluted places, and I've also visited beautiful, pristine, clear skies, non polluted places, and the sun was always yellow then, white now, and now all of a sudden, with the fires, yellow again. So, yeah, no, it's not because of pollution. Sorry. Although they say this new one is, you kind of have to wonder. I'm like, is the sun doing funky crap? And then they're blaming it on the fires or what? I don't know. Why are all the fires up north? I lived up north. We never had all these fires. It was always south. They were always, oh, the south is gonna like burn down, and now all of a sudden we're hardly getting any fires, and it's all up north. I don't know. The whole thing is just crazy. I mean, some of it just could be the news pretending they know something when they don't know anything, but I mean that's color of the sun thing, that is not pollution. And people all over the world remember the same. No matter where you live, pollution, no pollution. Trying to get it. It's so hard to like scroll when you can't see the scroll bar. There we go. I found the scroll bar. Dark Wolf's Den. It's an honor to do it for those who want to hear. You're talking about your show. Well, you know what? Your shows are getting really good, so um, people are gonna people are gonna join your channel because the shows are good. I'm bigger. Yeah. Yeah, well, there's no other screen. I'm not sharing my screen with with all the rest of the Mandelas. All right, I think I caught up. This still sounds like stuff that we were talking about like a bunch of times ago, though. Let's see if I can get it. Nope, that's not good plan. This is like really irritating. Oh, I apologize. I promise you, I am more irritated than you. This is like the if it just died, I would quit trying, but it's just enough to make you want to try and make you crazy. When I was a kid, we feared the Great Depression. I don't know if anything will happen after that. We just went through in the last 8 months. Yeah, I really think that okay, Oregon's on fire, over 550,000 acres burnt. Yeah, but a lot of the acres that are burning in California, those are like Mandela acres for me. They're territories that never existed before. So I don't know, their numbers, but I'm like, are those even real locations? I mean, it's on the news, but you know, a lot of the new territory that rolls into my timeline rolls in on a disaster. And so it rolls in, and then nobody lives there when it rolls in because supposedly it all just burnt down, or supposedly a hurricane just went over and slaughtered it. Like the U.S. Virgin Islands showed up on our radar when the hurricane was supposed to have devastated it, and we're like, what is the U.S. Virgin Islands? So that's the case. There's a lot of Washington territory that I think is possibly just new, and that might be the areas. Let's see if I have any my water over here. Yes. I was so busy trying to get everything to work that I did not prepare for other things. So when the news says all this area is on fire, I don't know. Don't freak out over it too much. I'm really suspicious about a bunch of that territory being possibly new. Like Hawaii, for a lot, for not, I don't want to say a lot, but a number of us think Hawaii got bigger with more islands. And that area right where the volcano erupted is one of the areas I'm really suspicious about. And it rolled in on a volcanic eruption over there. In such and such area got, devastated by the lava. I'm like, I'm not sure if that area existed before the lava even flattened it. What about Alaska? It looks nearly as big as the rest of the USA now. Yeah, and wasn't there a bunch of fires in Alaska as well? I mean, that there's a whole ton of territory that on Alaska that wasn't in my area, unless everything else shrank. All I know is Alaska looks a lot bigger. Now for California, I can say for sure because there used to be nothing above, almost nothing above San Francisco, and now San Francisco is almost in the middle of the state. It used to be way up by the top. So all of that territory, and that territory up there, I don't recognize most of those county names were not there. There's a few of them, but most of them, I'm like, I used to live up near San Francisco. I knew the counties around where I lived, and a bunch of those weren't there. They're just new, and a lot of those are the counties that were burning. So, Canada looks completely different, more water, absolutely, yeah. So California is the state I knew the best, so that's why I can say that I'm sure that those are the new territories. Those counties that I've never heard of are the new territories. But I'm not as easy to say on Alaska, but I could say that Alaska looks a lot bigger, and it had a lot of fires. And Washington, to me, is in a totally new area, and it's got a lot of fires. So I'm really suspicious when they say all these acres are burning, if they're even like, are there really any actual humans there, or is it just like NPC matrix territories that are burning? And and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I don't know anybody in any of those areas that witnessed any of it or suffered anything. Of course, there's like total strangers on the internet that come in and go, "Oh, my mother died," and blah blah blah. But I don't know any humans like personally in any of those areas. The Earth is getting smaller, blah blah blah. So I don't know. I'm not convinced that there's real humans in that area. I think that area might be new for the timeline. Comes in on a burn. I mean, that's not to say that if you got in a plane and flew over there, you won't see fire, but I don't think it's just randomly burning a bunch of people's houses like we might think. Okay. Okay, so I have one more. Let me just check on. I told you it's going to be a short show because I've left out half of them because a lot of them just, I don't think they'll be that good if I can't show them on like show you guys images. People in London. Yeah, London had some really weird storms lately and stuff too. It's been kind of funky. The border with Russia changed. All of Russia changed. Yeah, and Russia's like a stone's throw from the United States now too. It's weird. Used to be a huge space between us. I mean, they weren't like sitting on our border. That's craziness. There's a whole thing blowing up in Surrey from the John Wedger channel. What's the thing? And very high temperatures. What's the thing blowing up on the John? I don't know what the John Wedger channel is. Joe Rogan is riled up. So what is it? What is it? My country looks condensed. Places are closer together and not where I remember them. Bit of venom. What was your country again? I mean, I know California is for sure that. Remember during the last bad fires in Cali where houses were completely burned down next to houses that were totally untouched by flame? Yeah, actually, that's kind of an interesting story because way back when we did have our firestorms in Southern California, I I have one friend, I don't know, kind of an associate slash friend, not real close, but yeah, the fire went across the edge of his property, but it didn't touch his house. The earthquake was a tunnel being blown up. Check out Charlie Ward. I don't know any of those people. Russia used to be 360 miles from the US. Now it's like 50 miles. Yeah, and it's like miles covered with ice, so you could pretty much just skate over. In the winter, you could like hike over. Yeah, no, that's total craziness. I mean, it used to be a big deal. They would send their, like when they were able to build missiles that could reach us, it was a big deal because we were far away. You had to have some decent tech that you could launch missiles, but now they're like right there. Czech Republic and the Ukraine are not in the same place. So I remember them. All of that Sweden, Norway area has totally moved for me. Poland used to be more in the middle. Sweden, Norway, those places were on top. I don't know what's going on with Kazakhstan's insanely big. Um, Everything's kind of moved around. Switzerland is not in the right place. I'm trying to think of everything. Russia's all like stretched out. Um, China is smaller. India is like way dinky. Like that Saudi area is huge now. Um, Africa's gotten real big and it's mooshed into the west side of Europe. What happened to Canada has gotten like kind of mooshed down and stretched to the side. So and then Greenland has cranked up and is coming up towards the North Pole. It's almost to the North Pole now. Everything is all whack-doodle. You can't even, I really wish I could just kind of see my old map once or twice. I just miss my old map. I've been watching this stuff for a couple years now, and I'm watching like Greenland cruise north just bit by bit. It's like it cruised along the coast of Canada, and now it's like, and then there's all those weird islands up, the Elizabeth Islands or something. Those weren't there before. I even made a map years ago of the area, including islands up there, and those weren't there. There's a whole bunch of new islands up there. Yeah, Holland's the Netherlands, bit of Venom. It used to be Holland when I was a kid. It was called the country of Holland, and all the maps to the country of Holland. And no, it wasn't just a couple old maps. I mean, we had books that had been printed in the last few years, and it was freaking Holland. There was no thing as the called them Netherlands. And then suddenly they started saying you could call it Holland or the Netherlands. I remember them saying, the Netherlands and Holland is the same thing. I'm like, the Netherlands. And I don't know, from an American's perspective, the word the Netherlands is a very, it's a very storybook kind of a word. Holland sounds like a country, but the Netherlands, um, it half sounds like it's your butt because it's the nether regions. And the Netherland, or it sounds like some weird storybook fantasy world place. It doesn't sound. So when I first heard that, I'm like, the Netherlands? What the heck is that? Was it a joke? Is it some kind of mystical place? Um, So yeah, so now apparently it was never called Holland. Holland's just one little region in there. I don't know. The Netherlands, it always makes me kind of laugh. It's just funny on too many levels. And that's one of the reasons I didn't forget the change because it was so weird when I first heard it. I'm like, what is that? So I thought at first when I heard it, it was like some sub area over there that I hadn't heard of. I didn't realize right away that it was supposed to be Holland. And the teacher had to say and it wasn't me. It was some other person in class. I think that one even changed like in maybe like the early 80s or something. It was somebody in class that asked what the Netherlands was, and the teacher had to say, that's Holland. And then that's when oh, it's supposed to be Holland. That's weird. Surrey turning out to be big in child sacrifices. John does a lot of interviews with survivors, and they all say similar story. That Surrey, that Surrey, really, huh? So there's a whole bunch of people saying that Surrey was into child sacrifices. I don't know how did they live to tell the tale, though. I mean, seems to me if you were a witness to a child sacrifice, they're not just gonna throw you back out in the street to flap your lip to the newscasters. North Pole is a puddle of water. Yeah, and look at the old maps too. I was going to talk about this, but there's a lot of the old maps are putting. They have this thing called Hyperborea there, where the North Pole used to be. Like there's the old maps all show this weird chunk that's called. And it does not look at all like the shape of my old Arctica, but it's kind of a roundish, and it's got like a hole in the center, and there's said to be like a magnetic mountain. And then they're all the map makers, they're saying, oh well, this map maker got this info from this map maker. So they're claiming that somewhere lost in history, one guy made the map of the North Pole, and all the other cartographers just copied it, and didn't know. Would you be able to remote view the old map somehow? If you're talking about like remote viewing, like Stargate, military program and stuff, it wasn't that great for perfect shapes of things. You could kind of go, this kind of region is this. If you're very good, you could kind of. It's also not really good for proper names. It was a lot better for concepts, I would say. And certain people were good at certain aspects, like certain people were really good at machinery. But again, I think it was tied up with concepts like cogs and stuff are all concepts. So although they would draw them, they were tied up with concepts. So just pure shapes was not a strong point of anybody I know who did remote viewing. It's kind of like remote viewing is a kind of a lot like when you dream, that kind of brain that you have when thought processes when you dream, and then you wake up. So like say you dream and then you wake up, and you're trying to remember parts of your dream. That's kind of like remote viewing. Like the stuff that's easier to remember when you wake up from your dream is the stuff that remote viewing is easier to get. It's like it gets it from that same kind of brain part of your brain that dreaming is. So when you dream and then you wake up and you only remember little pieces of it, certain pieces stick in your head. I remember I was upset and some guy was chasing me, and then I was yelling and he said something and I got pissed, and that's kind of the stuff that is much more accurate with remote viewing. What exactly did he say? What was the exact shape of stuff? Those are a lot harder to. So you're not going to get your exact map out. And that's my point. I don't know anybody who is nearly that good. I wish. That would be like Fantasy Island. Well, at least not right now. Maybe in 10 years and a bunch of shifts will all get better. Australia was way far from Asia, Black Sea smaller. Yeah, and more inland. All those seas are like, from your perspective, they're migrating. Actually, I'm not sure if this one reverses. Does this phone reverse? Let's see. Let me see if it reverses. All right, this is my left hand. Yeah, so it does reverse. Okay, so it does reverse. Okay, so from your perspective, the Black Sea, what's that other sea that's over there? They're all migrating towards the Mediterranean, and they're like kind of, they got bigger, and they're like kind of squishing up over there by the Mediterranean. Remote viewing is something you have to practice all the time to get better. True, and this is already assuming that you're really good, okay? The way from the perspective I'm speaking, um, as best I can tell, I've studied the declassified Stargate info. I was like into remote viewing quite a bit before the Mandela kicked me upside the head, and I pretty much dropped remote viewing in preference to studying the Mandela and all my free time. As I, but before that I was fairly heavily into remote viewing. I did a fair amount myself. I was not really good at it, but I was pretty decent at it. But you really do have to do it every day for like years to get really good at it. Uh, I'm really good at certain aspects of it, and it seems like a lot of viewers are like that. Each viewer has things where they're really good at it, and my thing was like like what people were thinking, planning, their emotional state, their personality, that kind of thing. I'm really good at like that head doctor stuff. So like if you were going to remote view, if this employee would be a good match for my company or something, I would be quite good at that kind of thing. And I kind of sucked at visual stuff like maps and stuff. So I might be a little prejudiced against those too. The more visual stuff I sucked at, and I was much better at concepts, much better. Something's falling, something's disrupted, blah, 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 that kind of thing, versus drawing a picture. Some people would draw pictures and shapes, but they wouldn't know the concepts that went with the shapes. And they would be really good at. So if you needed a map, that would be the person you'd go to. They may not even know why they're drawing the lines that they're drawing, but they drew them. But again, though, I've looked at, I was involved with some of the better viewers. I've seen some of their work working blind. The trouble is when you go online and viewers present their work, a lot of times what they present you is the best stuff they've done in the last year. And there was like 100 stinky bad sessions, and then here's this one, and it looks phenomenal, but that's like 1 out of 100. So in order to really understand it can be expected, you have to see just 10 of their sessions all in a row and how good those are compared to the actual feedback. And you can't know how good they are unless you have actual or pretty decent feedback, because if you're just remote viewing, our history in 200 years, our future in 200 years, there's no way to know if that was any good or not. It could be totally wrong. So yeah, from what I've seen from some of the top viewers that are public, that can be known, I mean, I don't know, there might be way better people out there. But like I went to classes with Lynn Buchanan, who's very well known, and he doesn't teach anymore. Only his students teach now. But I saw him do demonstration viewings, and a couple other people also, and I pretty much know what to expect. And they were all very good viewers, and so I would say that none of those people could reliably create a map. Can you learn remote viewing? Okay, here's the thing about remote viewing. Remote viewing is a lot like sports, okay? So say you want to learn golf. So you take a class or two and you pick up the clubs and you have to just keep whacking that ball. Okay, so from the first day, some people are going to be way better at golf than the other people. And what'll happen is 99% of that class will just stop playing and 1% will keep practicing. So if the best person in that class practices for 3 years, they could be a really good golfer. And if the worst person in that class practices for 3 years, they can become a decent golfer. They're not going to be that good as that top guy, but they're still going to kick the buttocks off of everybody else in the class who didn't practice. So I would say yes. You may not be the best viewer in the world, but if you practice double hard than everybody else, you can still get really good. So there's something about remote viewing, like you just it just goes in waves. Like you just kind of suck for a while, but then you get way better, and there's a couple things that there's a point where you don't like, you just get in the zone, you just don't care about being right or wrong, and you just relax and do it. And then you actually tend to get a lot better when you stop. It's kind of zen like. If you want it too bad, it won't work. You got to just kind of enjoy it and go with the flow. And a lot of times you just got to do a gajillion sessions before you get to that. So, but yes, you can totally learn it. And even if you suck, just keep freaking going, because you got obstacles you have to jump over, and a lot of times they're psychological. So yeah, it just takes so much time though. And there's the other thing about remote viewing is you really got to learn to like the sessions. If you don't like doing it, then you'll never be able to stand doing enough practicing to get good at it, because it does take a lot. It's kind of like art, you know, when you're drawing a painting, or you're drawing like a mountain, in order to become a really good artist, you got to love art, because you're going to have to do a ton of it. So if you keep putting off doing the sessions and worrying and blah, 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 and you're insecure about them, and you're insecure because they're not perfect, and they're not going to be. That's one of the things about sessions that is, I'm used to being like an A student and getting like 100% on my tests, and you will never do that good on sessions. There'll always be parts that are wrong, and you're like, So there's that. You got to get over your ego, and there's a lot like that. You really got to get over worrying about being wrong. And when you stop worrying about being wrong, then you stop being wrong. It's just one of those Zen things. Remote viewing is easier if you're connected to the place or person. Um, I would say that we don't totally understand it, but when the session counts, when it's going to be seen by a lot of people, when it's a demo, when it's going to be used for important purposes, when a lot of interested people would be looking at it, you tend to do a lot better. And we don't know why exactly. We can only guess that the subconscious mind has got more interest or something. Um, you know, I don't know. But we've definitely seen that. There's been a lot of wondering if it has to do with the future influencing the past. Like a lot of intense concentration on something in the future will backtrack to the past, like retroactively, and influence and kind of make a connection that way. So it's not just your interest over here, but their interest going back makes the connection. Because operational groups have noticed this happens even when this guy, you don't have to view them real time. Like you can view it now, and then 6 months from now they look at the data, and this person may have forgotten all about the session. And this happens because you kind of get in this weird zone when you're doing it, and it's kind of like half a dream. So you kind of do your session sometimes, and then you set it aside, and then people ask you the next day what was in your session. You're like, oh, I don't really even hardly remember. what I wrote in there, and and then 6 months later you're like, I don't even hardly remember doing this session. If they were asking you what were you thinking when you wrote that, I'm like, I don't know, I don't even remember writing that. So they might not have had that much interest while they were doing the session, but these people way on the end had a whole bunch of interest, and somehow that still makes this session way back here really good. So I don't know. It's not to say that every important session does well, but there's definitely, you'll notice if you do 10 sessions and then one of them turns out to be one they're really going to use, you'll notice that like a lot of times that one session will be better than the other 9 a lot of times, or better than at least the majority of the others. So yeah, it's interesting. You'll learn a lot about yourself. I think remote viewing is more of a mental um it's a more of a struggle with yourself than any psychic thing. It's almost like, maybe most things in life are like this, but it's not like remote viewing is hard. It's like getting yourself and all your hangups and your insecurities and assumptions and worries and fears and all this. You just have to get those out of the way. That's really all that it is. It's just getting stuff out of the way so that it can happen. And that's why I say, when you get to a point where you're just doing it for fun, it's sort of like, when you go on a roller coaster ride and you don't stress out, you're just enjoying you look out the window and you're just enjoying the show. You're not worrying about, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I doing it right? You just sit there and woo. When you can do your sessions like that, they turn out better. Wait, what's wrong now? Now getting dizzy? Chaos? Uh, but now doesn't exist. It's already gone. What's gone? Now you got me all curious. I guess I can talk about anything for an hour. Oh, yeah, my therapist said something I said in the past, but I didn't remember it at all, but it did sound like something I'd say. Okay, now that stuff, there's a lot of Mandela stuff going on like that, though, too. So it might have really been a different version of you. Because there was something like that that happened at the last live conference when people actually showed up there. Was this one girl thought she had met the other girl the day before. They were both conference um, people. And she said, oh, yeah, I met you yesterday. And then the other one's like, no, you didn't. And she said, yeah, I did. I met you in front of the hotel and you said blah and blah, 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 blah. And then the other one's like, no, no, because I had a headache and I stayed in my room and I didn't come out. So it's impossible. And I didn't meet you. I've never seen you before. And and I didn't say all that stuff, but all that stuff was accurate. Like that would be something that she would have said. That's the kind of thing she would have said if she had been down there, but she had never gone down there. So it was like a timeline thing. So I guess in one version, she came down, and in the other version, she had a headache and she stayed in the building. And so in one version, this girl met her, and then, yeah, it was pretty trippy, actually. Pretty trippy. I had to step away, so I missed a lot of what you were saying, but it sounds like lucid dreaming. Actually, it's remote viewing, so you're more conscious. Actually, I would say lucid dreaming is a little easier. Um, well, maybe in some ways it's easier. I don't know. Yeah, how do you get out? How do you wake up from the dream? I'm not even sure how I do it, so maybe it isn't easier. I don't know. I can't easily, there's techniques for it, but there's no surefires. At least remote viewing, you can sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and like free flow some ideas and write it down. Maybe it'll suck, but you can always do it. Lucid dreaming, lucid dreaming it's a lot of fun, but it's not. I mean, I do it sometimes just by accident. I don't know. I'm not sure how I do it. I used to do techniques for it, and when you do techniques for it, you'll have a lot better. It'll happen more. But even so, I mean, like if someone said you have to have a lucid dream tonight, I don't know if I'll, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. And then when you're in the lucid dream, you're lucid, but you're not the same consciousness as when you're sitting here chatting away on the YouTube. And so it's like your brain is kind of flighty, and again, it's kind of hard to get that logic brain fully in gear. So it's easy to like forget what you were gonna do, get distracted by stuff. You're like a little kid. Oh, something shiny, and you forget your whole plan. Are we talking about the same thing like that chap that remote viewed aliens on Mars? A lot of people have said that they did that. Remote viewing is an interesting word because originally it was the word used for a system of psychic functioning that was supposedly created by the U.S. military, and Ingo Swann was very much involved in developing this system, kind of based on his ideas. But interestingly, he didn't use his own system. This was supposed to be a system that he could train other people to be psychic, but he didn't use it. He was more like a natural psychic, supposedly. But so he came up with a system, and then they picked out people from the military that might have some skill naturally, and they trained them. And so that is the original remote viewing. They used this terminology because they were trying to come up with a word that would appeal to the upper crust of the military so they would get more funding. But over time, it's kind of gotten kind of loosely used for like any kind of psychic detective work thing. And so, like, everybody started using that word. But technically, that word refers to a system that the military used. And there's been a number of versions of that system that have kind of spiraled off of that system. But there are some basic tenets of those systems that make them remote viewing versus just regular psychic functioning. Not that I have anything against psychic functioning, but um, there's also specific training and tests and stuff that you do to train yourself. That it's a little bit more orderly, but it's kind of come past that people come forth and say they're remote viewers, but they only view things that don't have much feedback. So you could say anything like, "Oh, I remote viewed Mars, and I remote viewed the United States in 200 years, and I remote viewed this and that. That's going to happen 20 years from now." And none of it, you don't have anything you can verify. It's not going to happen for a long time. So they can claim anything. And, who knows what their skill level is. It could be like, horrible, and you wouldn't know. So that's why those people are kind of frowned on quite heavily in the remote viewing community. And there's a lot of them because they say outlandish things. And they're pretty much both in it for the publicity, and most of the stuff they say doesn't come to pass. And there was some people who were predicting things like 10 years into the future, and now we're at 10 years, and like none of these things ever happened. And of course, you could say with timelines, maybe they did happen in some line. Who the heck knows? Who the heck knows anymore? But pretty much, some people are pretty much obviously in it for the money only, and aren't really making an effort to I don't know, be totally honest. And some people, I think they get so wrapped up in their own ego that they don't want to cross check any of the stuff they're doing. You see that a lot on channels, and I have to kind of watch, but some channels are really bad. It's just like when you're a leader of something, like my channel's kind of dinky, so it's not as bad. But say you have 100,000 people that follow your channel, which is obviously nothing like what I have, but 100,000 people, and like 99% of them are on there telling you how wonderful you are, and oh, you're so smart and blah 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 blah. It goes to people's heads, um, and it changes people a lot of times, and then they actually get more and more sensitive to anybody disagreeing with them. Um, and over time, some people really shift into the real whackdoodle lands. Not everybody, but it just they get their own head gets so fat that they can't even police their own self, and that really happens with remote viewing more than a lot of other subjects. There's nothing grounding some of these people, and so they don't even want to do sessions on stuff that's really verifiable, because then you could end up being wrong. Or some of your details might be wrong, which is what often happens in a session. Usually when you do remote viewing, they'll be like 80% good and 20% a little off. And if you're lucky, it'll only be a little bit off, but that's why it makes it so confusing, because you don't know which ones are off until the event happens and you can check it. So, like, for instance, you might confuse similar looking things, and it might be um, a big lake, but you say it's the ocean, or it might be a big lake, but you say it's a big swimming pool. Um, and you might say it's really splashy, but actually it's water draining in, or you just be off a little bit, but it can really confuse things. Um, and it's you're just off a little, and then there's interpretation. If I say what's going to happen in 20 years, I'm like, I see a bunch of splashing and water everywhere and blah blah blah, and then somebody can interpret that as a tidal wave, and somebody else could interpret that as a lot of rain, or somebody else could interpret that. There's a lot of ways to interpret, and some people have like such a strong opinion in their head that they just interpret everything in a certain direction without really realizing that there's 20 or 30 other possible equally logical interpretations of what could happen. It's kind of like what we're seeing with the sea now. There's a lot of directions it could go, and there's a lot of evidence for each direction. So, you know, and maybe it goes in all of those ways, depending on your timeline. Australia makes the best chocolate. Somehow I've missed the relevant factor in there. I might be caught up. It seems like this is something you said a long time ago, though. Yeah, just. All right, so the last one on here was from. This one actually came. I was on the subreddit called Conspiracy No Paul, No Politics, I believe it was. It was one of the conspiracy subreddits. I think it was Conspiracy No Paul. And the username was Ragnar Rookery, mentioned casually, and I don't know if this has been covered. I haven't seen this. I haven't really looked this week really hard for the latest Mandelas, but I have not seen this one. And this person was saying the latest is, do you know that social media site called Lincoln, where I remember it as LINKDIN. It was missing one letter. It was missing the E. And it always confused me because it was missing one letter. And it's basically kind of a business social media. So you can put your resume up there and you link all your business contacts. And, it's kind of like something to kind of help get jobs and what is that word they use? Not cross link, but that's the kind of word. Huh. It's weird because, I just realized whenever I reload, I've got to push play again. All right, so It always missed a letter. It was always missing a letter for me, and it kind of confused me how to say it because the letter was missing, and sometimes I have lack of imagination, and so I was like, LinkedIn, I always would kind of stumble over it. But now it has all its letters. It's one of those few Mandelas that makes way more sense now. Usually it gets way funkier on the spelling. So it's LinkedIn, linked in. Now it's linked in the way normally would say. Um, and that must be a fairly recent change. Yeah, networking, that's it. That's the word, networking. It's kind of a business networking social media. You don't spend a lot of time typing on there, but you write in, your job skills and your work connections, and you try to get all your customers on there and your business associates, and then you can update, I've changed jobs, all your classes, all your skill sets. Yeah, so it used to be link. I kind of thought of it as LinkedIn because it was missing the e, but now it is spelled like a normal. There's nothing funky. So it's LinkedIn now. LinkedIn. It's complete. For me, it was missing a letter. So there you go. And user Ragnar Rookery is like, that's the biggest one. It is kind of a big one for me, but it is not as big as the outer limits, imagine if you will, one. But not everything ends up at Satan's doorstep. Does that web page linked link? Nope. Oh, yours was missing an L. Well, it's complete now. It's LinkedIn, LinkedIn, and it's that same one that everybody uses, the big one. And I don't know of any other similar ones that have any similar names. It's LinkedIn now. So it was about the separation of the two words. No, for me there was a letter missing, which I don't know, when they do that it kind of messes me up. So there's not now. I can't show you because my computer's dead, but I recall you mentioning LinkedIn a few weeks ago. Nope, not me. That was some other version. But it was about the separation of the two words and capitalization. Nope, that wasn't me. It wasn't this version of me anyway. I will laugh so hard if you find it on any of my videos, because, man, the animals are, yeah, link, LinkedIn is what I remember. Yeah, that's it. Now it's LinkedIn. Shari remembers LinkedIn. So you stick an E in there. Now it's linked in. And for me, it was LinkedIn. Yeah, the E was missing. Oliver Henry remembers. It's in now. I did check this earlier today, luckily, before my computer went wonky. Oh, I'm still upset about Chick-fil-A because I always called it chic. Yeah, chic. I used to thought it was chic filet for the longest time. LinkedIn. No, it's LinkedIn. It's got an E now. Bit of image. I checked it earlier today. It's linked. It's got its E now. It's spelled correctly now. Can you screenshot the photo I sent? It's quite interesting. Nope, I can't do anything on the stupid phone. Sorry. Next time. Next time. Well, whenever I get my computer working. I'm going to bring it down to Best Buy, but I'm not sure if I can get it fixed in a week because they're so backed up. And I will look into buying a better computer, but I'm not sure I'll be able to find a suitable one and get it shipped within a week. I will definitely try. My adult son was telling me childhood stories that didn't match up with my memory. Mandela. Then 2 days later, it happened to him with his younger brother, and he asked me about Mandela. Yeah, I don't think anybody's past match up with anybody's anymore. Yeah, a different version most likely, as I view very few channels. I've seen it with other people that I watch, like other channels, so I can only assume it will happen with my channel. The weird thing would be if it didn't happen with my channel, because as far as I know, that happens with everybody's channels. everybody is like shifting differently from each other. It doesn't seem like there's anybody that really just stays in lockstep, which I don't like. But my friend remembers that truck as being white always. And so that must be a different version of him, or he got a download. I don't know which, but either one. It's just very disconcerting. You remember me saying one thing, and I must, I didn't say it in this timeline. I'm another me. Eva drink from a copper bottle. I don't think I have one of those. Oh, yeah, because of germs. I don't know. Now that I'm taking the DMSO and stuff, I feel much better. I'm still a little tired, but I feel a lot better. So I'm hoping that it'll keep up. I'm going to do it a few more weeks before I really, really say I love that stuff. But if I keep my inflammation down, I don't get sick. I don't think it's germs. And I don't want to get sick this winter. Because, you got the sniffles and then you have to stay home for 2 weeks. I can't get any work done. So I can't get sick this winter. Avoiding plastic bottles. Yeah, I know. They're just so convenient. I know everybody says that, but what am I taking? So, DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide. Check it out. It's real interesting. It was a big deal in the 60s, and then Big Pharma kind of squashed it. But it's fairly inexpensive. It's very interesting stuff. You do have to know how to use it properly. It's not super complicated, but you should definitely research it. It's like one of the best things for inflammation. It's like just under prednisone as far as the level of inflammation it can squash. But it has way less side effects than prednisone. Prednisone is not something you want to be on regularly. And I'm actually surprised I even took so long to think of trying it because I use it like on muscle pain things and stuff. And then once the muscle pain thing's gone, I stop. And then I use it on my dog for a very serious, yeah, that's it, dimethyl sulfoxide. Somebody wrote it on there. Oliver Henry did. I used it on my dog for years because she had this weird cranial inflammation problem, and she had to be on prednisone. And I figured out I could swap out the prednisone for DMSO. Do you take it internally or externally? You could take it either way. I actually used to take it just on the outer skin for muscle pain, but lately I just been slurping some back. You don't want to take it like 100% in your mouth because when it hits that water, it builds up a bit of heat. So it's better not better. You want to mix it with either some water or even better like some orange juice because it tastes kind of nasty. So yeah, it needs to be at least 50% something else if you're sticking it in your mouth. Otherwise, it gets just hot enough to kind of burn. If you put it on your skin, it won't get that hot because it's not hitting a giant wad of water immediately. But when you slap it into your mouth, you've got all that saliva, so you can order. So anyways, yeah, I feel much better since I've been on that stuff. I think I've got some kind of inflammation problem because I started taking vitamin C kind of high dose, like was it? It's about maybe 900 milligrams a day or something. It's not outrageously high, but it is high. Vitamin C is one of those things that there's not really, they haven't really found any downsides to taking a lot, other than your stomach will only tolerate a certain amount. So that's kind of like where it is. And I had good luck with that, so I started putting it on my face, also the vitamin C serum, and it's helped my skin a lot. And that's why I was thinking that might have helped with the healing on my tattoos. But yeah, DMSO has been the bee's knees. That's definitely so far been the one thing that's really helped. So I just put some with some orange juice and just slurp it back like every 12 hours. If you're really tired and you have brain fog, I do suggest you look into it. Do your research first. I'm not a doctor, blah, blah, blah. There actually is a lot of research on it from the 60s and 70s. it looks pretty safe overall compared to a lot of things. But everything is a bit of a experiment. Copper miners were not receiving the plaques and diseases way back in history. I don't know. I have not heard that. I tried colloidal silver, noticed absolutely nothing at all. Hi. It's like I lost connection there for a minute. Helps a little bit in the back of the throat, but other than that, I when I was sick, but I noticed no difference at all with hydrogen peroxide. Turmeric to cook, but daily and in smoothies. I have used that quite a bit. I noticed absolutely no difference at all with turmeric. Vitamin C, I noticed skin improvement, and the DMSO, I'm just less tired. Those are the only, like, those are probably the two. Magnesium, less muscle cramps. In fact, I got like no muscle cramps. What else did magnesium do? Magnesium, vitamin C, and DMSO. Those are the only three things I've ever taken that I actually noticed something. I have tried zinc. It's been a few years, but I noticed nothing at all when I took zinc. It could be it's just if I'm not low on something and I take it, I'm not going to notice anything. Or if it's not targeting my problem, I'm not going to notice anything. And I think some of these are anti-inflammatories, but they're just too mild. So, like, if you have a forest fire and you throw a cup of water on it, you're not going to notice anything at all because they're too wimpy. And so that also might be some of it. But so yeah, I try things, but I mean, I can't just. Over the years, there's been like 100 things that have been recommended. Oh, this works, and if I don't notice anything, I can't be taking all this stuff forever. You'd be like sucking down cups of pills all day because there's so many things. So if I don't notice anything, I stop taking it. They say that about turmeric being anti-inflammatory, but like I said, I didn't notice anything at all. I put it in my food to taste good, but I didn't notice anything. I think they're just too wimpy. You got to realize something about DMSO. DMSO is like prednisone almost. It's that powerful. It is like turmeric is like this, and DMSO is like this. When it comes to anti-inflammatory. I mean, like, so that's how many doses of this do you have to take, or just go right for the DMSO? You need turmeric with black pepper. Well, I add pepper on my food. I don't know. I all I could say is I needed something that's more along the lines of like prednisone, okay? I needed something that would kick that inflammation all the way to the curb and stomp on it. And that is what DMSO is able to do. These other things are just like they do research on it. There's this much effect. It's just not enough. I tried magnesium, nothing for me. It probably depends on what you eat. If you eat things with a lot of magnesium in them, one of the things about magnesium is there's not a ton of foods that really has magnesium, so I think that's one of the reasons why people are often low on it. Now, vitamin C, it took me a long time to try because I actually like fruit. I eat them daily. I'll eat like 2 or 3 oranges. I definitely got my RDA of vitamin C. So there was no reason for me to expect to be low on vitamin C. But what did happen is I started adding it into my smoothies in powder form because I didn't want my smoothies to oxidize when I would save some of it in the fridge. And I started, I didn't realize really how much I was putting in. I put in like a ton, and I noticed that my skin got a lot better when I was sucking on those smoothies, and I realized it was the vitamin C, and it was a lot of vitamin C. So that's why I started taking it on the side. I'm like, well, I'll just take the vitamin C, and see what happens, because I was trying the fruit. Sometimes I just eat the fruit like in chunks of fruit, and like I didn't get that effect. But then when I put the smoothie, All I'm doing is putting juice and fruit and some vitamin C in. So the vitamin C was like the only main new ingredient. So yeah. So then I tried the vitamin C serum. Like, okay, well, I'm taking vitamin C internally. Why not slather some on the outside too? And then for the DMSO was kind of an accident too. I actually hurt my foot really bad a couple of weeks ago, and it was really hurting. DMSO has some painkiller powers too. So I'm like, I'm gonna put 1 ton of DMSO on my foot so it'll stop freaking hurting. Used to make holes in the cells and carry the medication inside. No idea if it. No, what DMSO does is it's like a universal solvent. It passes through your system even easier than water. In fact, it's sort of like miraculous in the way it just shoots through your system. Um, and they say that there is DMSO naturally in your body, just not a lot, but it shoots through your system, and it also helps fluids flow through your system. So if you have any area that has fluid buildup or edema, it can help with those areas quite a bit. They also use it for blood clots. It's pretty good for that, and it helps a lot with if you have brain swelling, it helps drain that. But overall, it just smacks back hyperactive immune response quite a bit. It's not going to solve whatever was causing it, but if you've got some kind of whatever thing is causing your inflammation, it probably won't cure that, but it will do a lot to ameliorate the effects, all the unpleasant side effects of it. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. They don't, like many things, they don't understand exactly how it works, but there are many research studies done on it back in the 60s when they used to do real research just to actually find out how stuff really worked, and big pharma didn't control like everything. David Kent's out. See you later. Zinc, magnesium, D3. I've been taking calcium, calcium with D. I actually go out in the sun a couple times a week and play pickleball, so I do get my D that way. The reason I take calcium is because I don't do well with dairy, and it's hard to get a lot of calcium without dairy. Basically, I try to fill the holes in my diet. Like, you'll never see me taking iron because I eat plenty of red meat. I don't do a lot of D. I go out in the sun. But, I could be wrong on some of this stuff. Like, I thought I didn't need C, but obviously I do really good on C. But, C is an anti-inflammatory. So I looked at everything I do well on in there. Every one of them is anti-inflammatories. Even the stimulant I like, ephedra, that's also doubles as an anti-inflammatory. Every last thing. I do well on prednisone, but you can't take it for long. Anti-inflammatory. Vitamin C, magnesium, DMSO, all anti-inflammatories. And stuff that I do bad on, there's certain stimulants that release histamine, and I do bad on those. And I just knew, I'm like, I don't do good on this stimulant. I went back and checked every last one of them is a histamine releaser, so the opposite of an anti-inflammatory. It's a inflammatory, basically, like modafinil. Do bad on that. It's an inflammatory. So whatever my problem is, it's definitely heavily inflammation related. Vitamin D3 gave me bad headaches. Yeah, I don't know. Since I've been on the DMSO, I just, a lot of that stuff has gone away. I'm hoping that'll stay like that. I mean, it's not like I'm perfect, but it's really, um, and right after DMSO is so fast acting. Like, if you slurp some down, it just spreads through your system so fast. And you'll actually feel it kick in like a minute. You'll just feel like I just feel a clarity. I don't know how to describe it. And that extra clarity will last like especially like a couple of hours of just it's just like when you get that feeling like your shift sickness and your brain fog, it just it clears it out. That's been my experience so far anyway. I've been doing it for a couple weeks now. Cranberry juice. Yeah, I used to eat that drink that all the time. Anyway, whatever my problem was, it was pretty serious inflammation. So I don't know. I tried all these different diets too. No meat, almost all meat, a whole bunch of coconut, cutting out all these different things. It helps me to cut out dairy and wheat, but those are the only two I noted. And even then, it wasn't as strong as the DMSO. So DMSO and meditation. I don't know. Meditation goes well with everything, and I haven't seen anything that DMSO doesn't go well with. So very little sunshine during winter here. Yeah, you should take D if you live in one of those areas. I'm pretty pasty white skin, so that helps. And I live in Southern California, so we get sun. Dark fruits and copious greens on a regular basis. I always recommend those, definitely. There are some people who have goiter problems, or what should I say, thyroid problems if they eat too much like cabbage and spinach and stuff, though. So you kind of want to think about before you wail on the spinach all day long, the spinach and cabbage. Salt and sugar cause inflammation. Sugar, yeah, I'm not so sure about salt. When I was researching it a couple years ago, I didn't find any real issues with salt. Salt tends to be self-limiting. You want a certain amount and then you don't want any more. If you look historically, I mean, assuming this hasn't changed in the last few years, which it may have. If you look historically, salt consumption has been very flat over the decades. People want a certain amount and then they're done. The number of people that really have much blood pressure change from salt is very small number, and most people only have a few points of change, and then it fixes right away. In fact, a low salt diet is correlated with earlier mortality. So there's a lot of reasons to not freak out about salt. I don't eat a lot of processed foods, so I don't eat huge tons of salt. But I do salt as needed. It's funny because there's days when I just don't want that much salt, and then I'm like, ugh, I don't feel like salt. This is too salty. And so then I just naturally, okay, I'm not going to put a bunch of salt on. And there's other days where I'm like, salt. So, I think that that might be something that the body naturally balances. Alcohol brings my blood frequency down. I've never liked alcohol much. I almost never touch the stuff. I'm pretty good at digesting it if I feel like it, but it's just not, I don't know, it's not something that really interests me, drinking. Thyroid issues colliding with leafy greens. It's because certain greens, what was it? They soak up iodine, and your thyroid needs that. And it was broccoli. I know spinach was one, cabbage was one. They're all in the same family. Broccoli might have been one. I'm not sure, but basically you need that. Your thyroid needs that iodine. So if you eat stuff that blocks that, then you got problems. So that's why. They might have a whole bunch of other good things in them, but if you just suck those down all day, then you could have thyroid problems. Yeah, when I crave salt, I get it, then it's done. Now, sugar is a whole nother thing. The more you eat, the more you want. Yeah, sugar is a different kind of thing. You don't get like satisfied. Sugar is something I definitely have to watch out for. Sugar is a whole nother animal. I do suggest people try to. I think sugar, I would say, is an addiction that I'm constantly falling off the wagon. I'm good for a while, then I start eating it, then I want more. Although, ironically, I don't notice a huge difference. I do notice some difference when I eat a lot of sugar, and obviously you're going to gain weight, but yeah, sugar is definitely one of them trouble. All right, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm pretty much done. I think we're done with Mandela's. Pink salt is best. I always try to get the iodized salt, because there's not a lot of sources of iodine, and the pink salt almost never has iodine. I actually was thinking about that recently. This pink salt thing has taken over as popular because of trace minerals, but then you don't have iodine in it. And how many people really get there? Look and see what has iodine. It's like almost nothing. Um, Seaweed has iodine. If you're like living in Japan, you probably eat a fair amount of seaweed. But if you're not eating miso soup and nori all the time, you're not getting your iodine probably. I'm trying to think. There wasn't much else that even had it other than iodized salt and seaweeds. So I don't have anything against pink salt, but I would strongly suggest that you also regularly consume iodized salt or some kind of iodine source, because iodine is really important as far as I can tell on in the body's functioning. So I just wonder how many people suddenly all switched over to the pink salt and aren't getting their iodine. Strawberries have iodine. They have it, but not a lot. I read this sometimes, such and such fruit has a lot of such and such vitamin. And then I look and it's like one orange has 10% of the RDA. I'm like, hello, I don't eat 10 oranges, so I don't consider that a lot. If you have to eat 10 of those, that's not a lot. And so strawberries is like that. Yeah, it has iodine, but it's not that much. Yeah, no fluoride for me. I don't do fluoride. Swish my mouth with iodine water after brushing. Yeah, does it go in? I don't know. How does it like percolate into your skin that much if you just swish? Pink salt is not as salty as it should be. To be honest, salt is not as salty. Oh, I don't know. My taste buds are so weird now. I don't know they're different every day. There's days when salt tastes massively salty, and there's days when I literally cannot taste salt. Um, it's just gotten so whackdoodle. You'd want to blame it on some kind of nutritional deficiency, but I'm like, really? Does my nutritional state change drastically from like lunch to dinner? It seems unlikely. I use rosemary oil and coconut oil as toothpaste. I was for the longest time using baking soda and cinnamon powder because I just like cinnamon. Nowadays, I've been using charcoal toothpaste with no fluoride. I like that stuff. Don't add salt to anything, somebody was saying. Salt is very important for your body, and you can have cramps if you don't eat enough salt. Especially in the summer, you're sweating, you're exercising. I would say don't be too scared of salt. If you feel like putting salt on something, then put salt on something because your body needs that stuff. It's an electrolyte. It's so funny because miso is fermented. I'm pretty sure miso still has its iodine though. I don't think fermenting kills iodine. I don't think the yeasts touch that. So yeah, the thing with the salt, they say it's bad, and then they advertise electrolyte drinks, and then you look in the electrolyte drinks, and it's full of salt because your body needs it. But suddenly it's called an electrolyte. Now it's good for you. I mean, think it out. It's kind of funny. You demonize salt, and then you sell electrolytes. I mean, Earth is so weird that way. I don't. So yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm yapping on. All right, I'm really closing it. It's time to go. I actually have no idea how to turn this off. It just occurred to me. If I turn my phone off, will it be off? Electrolytes are great. Salt's an electrolyte. Salt, magnesium, and potassium are the three mains that they put, and they'll usually slam some sugar in there because it'll taste like crap. But if it's one of those crappy tasting ones, it's usually just those three: salt, potassium, magnesium. Those are the three main electrolytes. I think you sign out on your phone. Yeah, I know. I just don't see the button. I'm going to start poking things. If I'm suddenly gone, you'll know why. Poking. Somewhere there's all right, this might be it. This I may be signing off right now. So thanks all for coming if I'm signing off right now. Doink. Did that sign off? Yes, that's it. Okay, I found it. It's the X button. Surprise, surprise. Thank you all for coming. Think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.